teacher. No idea at all. I was kind of one of those people who, when people would ask me what I wanted to be, I would just kind of give them a blank stare and just shrug my shoulders. I was homeschooled my entire life, so maybe if I'd been in a school setting, it would have dawned on me a little quicker that I wanted to be a teacher. But I always knew that I loved kids. I was babysitting since I was 13 years old. I had 3 younger siblings, and they were like my own kids because I was constantly watching them and just taking care of them. So basically, I went on a missions trip to South Africa, and when I went there, we were very actively involved with kids and working with kids and being with kids and teaching them dramas and doing arts and crafts projects with them. As you can see, the little girl up there, we were doing face painting and all of that stuff. And it kind of like a light bulb went off in my head, and I realized this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be able to be with kids, with them every day, and teach them and watch them grow and just like fall in love with them like I did with these kids on this missions trip. So the missions trip lasted about 2.5 months, and as soon as I got back home, I signed up for classes at Faulkner State, and I got my associate's degree there. And as soon as I was done at Faulkner, I came to Spring Hill. And at Spring Hill, that's when I first got my taste of education classes, because at Faulkner I just took all of my basic classes. So when I first heard the term lab experience, I had absolutely no idea what it meant. And I didn't stay on campus, so I wasn't really sure. It wasn't until we were actually literally signing up for this lab experience that it finally dawned on me that this was student teaching, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So my first student teaching was at St. Mary's in a kindergarten classroom, and that basically solidified my love for teaching in this classroom and with this particular teacher. She was amazing. I was like a scared little bird for my first time ever being in a classroom like this, really ever, because I was homeschooled, so I never really got to see a classroom with these young kids. And it was the most amazing experience. You know, when I was first writing my lesson plan for it, I think I took about 4 hours writing a really basic lesson plan, and it was math lesson on subtraction. It was very basic, but something that luckily I've progressed through this program that I have been able to speed up my time on lesson planning, and now instead of 4 hours, it only takes me about an hour to do a good lesson plan. And so that was my kids, and they were the sweetest kids ever. And so one of my favorite things, I was in Dr. Silvernell's art class, I believe, at the time, and it was around Thanksgiving time, and we did a Thanksgiving Day quilt. And so what I had the kids do was I gave them a sheet of paper, and I had them write their favorite or draw their favorite thing that they're thankful for, something that they were thankful for. And I took home all of the papers that they did, and I went and put it all together. I stapled it, I taped it, and made it into a nice quilt. And when I brought it back to them, these kids were so ecstatic. Something that I've seen is that kids, they like it when they see their work with other works. And so they can point it out to you. They're like, oh my gosh, that one's mine, or that one's his, and that's my best friend's. And just the joy that it brought them was amazing. And that's really where I decided this is exactly where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do. I had a couple more lab experiences after that. Oh yeah, and this was the sweetest thing ever. They gave me a Pete the Cat book, and she had all of the students sign it, and then she signed it herself. And it was precious. It was a really, really good experience. After that, I had a couple more at private schools, and then I went to Council Traditional School, and I was in a first grade classroom. And that was an extremely eye-opening experience, because in private schools, you know, it's very different. And I was able to see a lot of different types of kids at this public school, and it was a magnet school, but it was still public. And I have up here just like, it's not the whole lesson plan, but I did a lesson plan with them. And at this point, I was really trying to differentiate ways of writing lessons plans and ways of trying to hit on all the learners that are in that classroom, because we had so many different types of learners. We had like some ADD kids in there. We had kids who were really like auditory learners, and we had kids who were really visual learners, kids who were super hands-on. And so I really wanted to try and hit on every single thing. And I feel like as I've gotten like through this program, I've been able to do this better. Like with each class that we have, I'm able to take little bits from there, from Dr. Sanders' class, from Dr. Silvernail's class, and kind of like interwind them together. And so this is one of my most favorite lessons that I ever taught. Dr. Rowan actually came and observed me for this lesson, and that made me even more nervous than I already was. But it went off so well. I basically had a smart board. It was on bones. I had a smart board quiz for them. We had a diagram. I read them a book. We did a YouTube video. We did a bones quiz. We did cutting and pasting. And I felt like all of the kids, this was probably one of my favorite lessons because all of the kids were so actively engaged in this, because I was able to really hit on every little person's way they learn. And so that was just one of my favorite lesson plans that I ever did. And I feel like I've gotten better at being able to differentiate, because it's so important. You want to make sure that every student in your class is able to learn, and learn in a way that they can do it, because not every student is the same. So after that, we have my internship, and I'm going to try not to cry, because tomorrow's my last day there, and I've gotten really close to these little kids. As you can see, I have an extremely cute class. They are extremely talkative, and that has been something that we have had to work through, and I've had to really learn that, you know, you have to block out their noise when you're teaching. And so, yeah, one thing, Marie kind of hit on all of my main points that I was going to talk about, but one of my favorite things has been able to be there in the very beginning with them and really see. I have the most amazing cooperating teacher, and really see how she sets up classroom management, because it's one thing going into a classroom that already has an established management system and how they do procedures, and it's another thing to go in fresh, brand new, and have absolutely no management. Some of these kids at home are allowed to go crazy, and now you have to come in and kind of establish it. And when they say it takes weeks for the system to get in place in your classroom, they are not exaggerating. That is extremely true. It takes forever for it to get established, and we still have issues with it now. And but that is definitely one thing that I have really loved about, is just seeing it from the beginning, and them coming in and seeing you as an authority figure, like Marie was saying. You know, sometimes when you go in your lab, they see you as fresh and new, and just they want to please you. When you've been here for a while, they start to be like, I don't really care, you know, she's here all the time. And so there was that. And then this was literacy centers, and me just kind of going through literacy centers. These are probably one of my favorite times of the day, because we go in small groups, and there's about 4 small groups that we have, and I just kind of roam around the room and help them. And I feel like this is a really good time to build bonds with these kids. It's one thing teaching them whole group. It's another thing teaching them in a small group, where you start to really see kids in whole groups can get away with a lot of stuff. Sometimes, you know, the ones who are more outgoing will raise their hands and answer their questions, and the ones who are more quiet and are not sure what's going on kind of slip through the cracks. In small groups, you're able to really kind of see where that child is at, where that student is at in their learning, and you can bond with them. And this was one of my most favorite times of the day, because you really get to see and get to feel where the kids are at. Now I just have a quote, and this says, "Art has the role in education of helping the children become like themselves instead of more like everyone else." This is extremely true. Throughout internship, I have seen these kids grow, and I've got to know their personalities a lot. So I wanted to show you this. We'd had a barn or a farm week, and we did farms. We did not give them a picture to look at. We told them that we want a red barn. We want you to draw a puddle for water so ducks can go in it, a pile of mud for pigs to roll in it, and we want grass. That's all we said. This is a little 5-year-old girl, and she is like a perfectionist. She's extremely smart, very well behaved, and as you can see, hers is like, she drew a fence, because that's how she knew that, you know, animals stayed in fences and gates and stuff like that, so she drew a fence. Her barn is pretty great. We didn't tell her to do the outline around the barn, but she did that because she knows that's what it looks like. And so I could point to that picture, and I could tell you exactly who the girl was that drew that, because that is exactly her personality, and it shines through in her artwork. Now, we have another one. This is a 6-year-old boy, and his barn is kind of up in the sky. His pile of mud is there along with the water, and his barn, I'm not really sure, he's got a chicken floating in the air as well. I could point to this and know exactly who this person is that drew that, because that is his personality. He's big, he doesn't really care that much. That is him completely. And so, yeah, just don't try and change the kids' art. Some teachers like their kids' arts to be perfect. I like to see their personality, and I promise you, you will see the personality of a child in their artwork. This is just a couple of, we went to a pep rally, and it was so much fun. We got to be with the upper school. Oh yeah, this is for Halloween. We, kindergarten dressed up as crayons, which was a lot of fun. And I have really loved getting to know all of the kindergarten teachers. That's another thing about internship. You really get to immerse yourself in the culture, I guess, of the department, and we had so much fun. And this is another quote. It says, "Teaching creates all other professions." And this is kind of my final point. Something dawned on me, and I realized that these kids are going to grow up. And one day, one of these kids might save your life because they might be a doctor, and you might have been in a car accident. Or they might grow up to be the President of the United States. Or they might, you know, be something. And in that moment, I realized I hope that I touch their lives in a positive way, so that when they grow up and become who they're going to be, that I help them get there in just a small way, and I want it to be positive. And so I made a short video, nothing like Marie's, and I asked all of the kids what they wanted to be when they grew up, and some of their answers are quite interesting.